Good evening and welcome to this Top Gear special on the Lombard RAC Rally. Now, a few hours ago, 52 cars rode across the finish lines here in Chester, battered and covered with mud from the Welsh forest. The drivers bone weary after 30 hours or so in the saddle, but has the sky and adrenaline at having finished, because even to finish in this event is an achievement that has an international ring about it. Now, we're going to start this evening by looking at some of the events of the past 5 days. So, Sunday the 25th, bright and early, 120 cars rolled across the start line here in Chester. Ahead of them, a 2,000-mile trek around England, southern Scotland and Wales, 550 of those miles on the special stages. Now, the special stages are really the heart of the Lombard RAC Rally. There are 56 of them strung out along the course like beads on a necklace, anything from 3 to 30 miles long, all but a handful of them on rough, unmarked, unmapped forest tracks. Now, on these special stages, the cars are really driven in anger because every second counts. And leaving aside the complications, and there are many, it's the accumulated times on those special stages that really define as the winners. Now, everyone had forecast a battle royal between Ari Vatanen in the new Peugeot 205 Turbo and his Finnish countryman Hannu Mikkola in the somewhat older Audi Quattro Turbo. It was a battle that was joined day one, stage one, at Knowsley Safari Park, and Barry Gill is doing the commentary.
Sunday morning at Knowsley Safari Park, and in the absence of newly crowned world champion Stig Blomqvist, it was left to Ari Vatanen in car number 2 to lead the rally through the first of its 56 special stages in the sensational new mid-engined four-wheel drive turbo Peugeot. The favourite was, of course, Hannu Mikkola, 4 times a winner here and seeking a 4th successive victory in the Audi Quattro. The best bet for a home win was British rally champion Jimmy McRae in the Opel Manta. Bjorn Valdegaard was hoping to repeat his safari success in the Toyota Celica, while the First Lady of Rallying, Michelle Mouton, was already showing the crowds that the new 450 horsepower Audi Quattro Sport takes a lot of handling. Timo Salonen was making his rally comeback after an operation in the Bill Blydenstein prepared Nissan 240 RS, a conventional two-wheel drive non-turbo car. Per Eklund of Sweden was in the rear-wheel drive Toyota with 370 horsepower under his right foot. Malcolm Wilson, flying the flag for Top Gear, he'd actually bought his own Audi Quattro in a bid to prove his talent. Russell Brooks in the Opel Manta was competing in his 17th Lombard RAC Rally, but there was no joy for home hero Tony Pond. He hit a tree in his Rover Vitesse and was the first casualty of the rally on the very first stage. As the cars splashed their way back to Chester for a brief night's rest, the pattern of the 1984 rally was established. Vatanen had set the pace in the Peugeot, with Mouton, Valdegaard and Mikkola in hot pursuit, and Top Gear's Malcolm Wilson was the leading British driver in a very encouraging 6th place. Into the forest on Monday morning, with 115 survivors facing 2 days and 1 night of tests through the north of England. Vatanen would hold the Audi at bay and build up a full 4-minute lead. Mikkola would be fastest on 7 stages, but couldn't really make an impression on the pioneer Peugeot. Per Eklund of Sweden was lying 8th in the Toyota, the car which he's helped to give a manufacturer's victory in Britain in 83 and 84. Malcolm Wilson in a Top Gear car was smoking badly, there was an oil seal problem, and eventually it would end his brave effort. Terry Caber of Toaster would have battled his way to 9th place by the time the cars returned to Chester on Tuesday evening. And this is Bjorn Valdegaard, showing the form that won him the rally in 1977, but his engine failed him on the 11th stage. The neither stage called for the gentle touch, contrast the styles of Philippe Vanberg in the Mazda, Mats Johnson in the Ascona, Saeed El Hajri in the Porsche, and Michael Eriksson in the Audi. Sadly, Malcolm Wilson's rally would soon be over. He retired on Monday with engine problems after holding a fine 4th place. Roger Clark, twice a winner, was making a comeback at 45 years of age, obviously enjoying himself in 16th place. But it was hard to believe that the Porsche was giving a 150 horsepower advantage to this car, the Audi Quattro Sport, with Michel Mouton surging up the hill here at Wycombe. Dolby Forest, one of the toughest of the Tuesday tests. America's John Buffon would finish the day in 4th place behind Vatanen, Mikkola and Mouton. Finland's Juha Kankkunen holding 7th spot in his Toyota. Russell Brooks, still charging along in 10th place in the very conventional Opel Manta. Even a puncher in the middle of a stage and a policeman who insisted he cleaned his car couldn't slow Vatanen's progress. By the time they reached the Forest of Dean on Wednesday afternoon, he had a lead of over 4 minutes over Hannu Mikkola in the more conventional Audi.
It was about 11:30 last night when we were on the air indeed in the dark, rain-soaked Welsh forests that this rally and indeed one of the cars was suddenly turned on its head because Ari Vatanen rolled the Peugeot 205. Now the car was righted and finished the stage, but it was enough to let Mikkola slip through and get into the lead for the very first time. Behind them, Michel Mouton changed a wheel and slipped back. John Buffon, the quiet American who'd been in there right from the start, suddenly charged off 50 yards into the scenery, as they say, and never recovered. Kankkunen, the brilliant young Finnish driver, hit a tree and was taken to hospital. And somewhat earlier, Jimmy McRae had slipped into the mud and slipped almost off the leaderboard. So suddenly the rally was wide open again, and Mikkola had been given a glimpse of the winner's flag. Vatanen closed on him in the darkness, and at this moment of truth, Mikkola's clutch began to give trouble, so Vatanen passed him. And as we pick up the cars at Duffy in North Wales, so dawn is breaking, and only a few seconds separates these first two drivers, Vatanen and Mikkola.
Michel Mouton, so nearly the first lady world champion in 1982, was doing everything in her power to make up for a disastrous season. She'd only finished 1 rally, but here in Dovey was still fighting for a top 4 place and was second fastest to Mikkola. Per Eklund was the man who was keeping her out of 3rd place. The 38-year-old Swede was so pleased with his Toyota, he said he could have started the rally all over again. Ari Vatanen had to be content with 4th place here, and there was more trouble to come for the leader. A snap drive shaft would mean he was only 8th on the next stage, handing the lead back to Mikkola for a 2nd time. Russell Brooks wouldn't be able to match his 1979 2nd place, but was battling to be top British driver, in 5th place in his Opel Manta. Timo Salonen was 3rd fastest on this stage, fighting to preserve 6th place from Jimmy McRae. Shaker Mater's best previous British result was 37th in 1973, but here he was lying 8th in the Nissan with only 7 stages to go. Hannu Mikkola was about to take the lead from Vatanen again. His success sequence in the rally is 2nd, 1st, 1st, 2nd, 1st, 1st, 2nd, 2nd. So would he be winning again, just to keep the sequence going? It was proving a good rally for British stars. Roger Clark was smiling along in 11th place in the Porsche. And Scotsman Jimmy McRae was holding 7th place despite all sorts of problems. Clocainog, the last forest. Would it be the sting in the tail after more than 500 miles of special stages? Ari Vatanen, in fact, thought he had thrown victory away when he rolled on a forest stage late last night, losing nearly 5 minutes to Mikkola. You certainly don't think you're going to win when you're hanging upside down from your seatbelt, he told me. But he battled back and he set fastest time on no fewer than 34 of the 56 special stages. And is it any wonder when you look at the pace he set at the end of the rally on these slippery conditions? Top Gear set up its own speed trap. Just look here. 85, 89 miles an hour is top speed on conditions that we drove out of at 20 miles an hour. And this is Hannu Mikkola, the man who's really been keeping up the pursuit of that flying Peugeot. Mikkola, now 42 years old, 4 times a winner of this event, and never out of the top 2 since 1977. That's been a Toyota, in a Ford, and of course the Audi Quattro. He's driving the older version of the Audi, but with all the style and panache that made him the original flying Finn. Older, of course, than Vatanen, perhaps wiser, certainly extremely calm. We were even told at the beginning of the rally that Hannu, who's now become a golf fanatic, is carrying a putter with him, just in case he finds time for a bit of practice. But Mikkola is the man who's made this rally a duel all the way along. Other men may have got despondent, not Hannu Mikkola. Per Eklund, heading for his best ever result in the Lombard RAC. He was 6th in 1981, but now he's lying 3rd, and he's obviously benefiting from the experience gained in 3 years of British Open rallying, on conditions like these, of course. And the Toyota Celica, well, despite only having 2-wheel drive, as you can see from these pictures, it had proved as sturdy and as speedy as it did on the Safari when Bjorn Voldegaard gave it its first victory. Not far to go now for Michel Mouton, desperately wanting to finish and proving both the reliability and the power of this new generation Audi. That fantastic 450 brake horsepower linked to 4-wheel drive had helped to get 4 fastest times, beating the men Mikkola and Vatanen on a variety of surfaces. It would be interesting to see what she does going past the Top Gear speed trap. Here she comes, 63, 67, 74, 89 to beat by our records. No, actually slower than Vatanen, but that shouldn't surprise anybody looking at the leaderboard. This is Russell Brooks, the man who's competed in 17 RAC rallies, man who almost got squashed when his car had an incident early in the event, but doing so well in this conventional Opel Manta. Extremely popular driver, a cheerful driver, and a man who has proved yet again how steady he can be. And there you see on the Top Gear speed trap, which is really going crazy with these cars, lifting off round a corner, sliding in conventional rally style, a conventional car, of course. The Nissan number 7, Timo Salonen, man who had 3 slip discs, had an operation 3 months ago, but has really done well here. This car isn't really like the old Datsun Violet. It isn't a dominating car, but it won the Safari this year in Bjorn Voldegaard's hands, and certainly Nissan would be pleased with this sort of performance. Salonen's had 3 World Rally wins. The last one was an 81 on the RB Coast Rally, and that must have been a lot warmer than today in the Welsh Forest and yet the crowds, as throughout this event, have turned out in their thousands. Jimmy McRae of Scotland, the reigning British rally champion, a man who had a big off last night, lost a lot of time. But he somehow kept this Opel Manta on the leaderboard. It would be wrong to say that McRae has had a happy rally. He wanted to do well, but he, as we say, he's run into all sorts of problems, including one where an oil pipe broke on the engine, which not only lost him revs, but sprayed oil all over the windscreen in the middle of a special stage, and McRae and his co-driver had to get out 3 times to clean the screen. But still, flying the flag, Jimmy McRae on his way to Chester and one of his best ever results. This is Shaker Mater, another man used to war McLarens. Together with his wife Yvonne, he's come over from Kenya, where of course he's dominated the Kenya Safari so often. He's won it 5 times, but here in the Nissan he started very steadily, but he has described these stages as slippier even than the Mount Kenya mud, and that's saying something. Sliding it in conventional rally style, it's so interesting to see the difference between the 2-wheel drive cars and the 4-wheel drive cars, and certainly these are more exciting, but they're having trouble scrabbling their way through the forest. This is Bertie Fisher, the 34-year-old Northern Ireland star. He's driving his own Opel Manta with the help of the General Motors dealers, prepared by Sydney Meek Motorsport in Dungannon. He is a man who only recently was a privateer. He finished 5th overall in the 1983 and the 84 British Rally Championships and has done exceptionally well in this event. This will without doubt be his best ever international performance, and he must be very pleased with it indeed. That was a problem. Corrected it, certainly made a mess of the sign. It's a little embarrassing because I think that sign belongs to his sponsor. This is Michael Eriksson, whose parents own an Audi dealership in northern Sweden. So I suppose it's not surprising he's at an Audi drive. But according to Gunnar Palm, who of course co-drove with Hannu Mikkola, he's got it on talent. In fact, Gunnar feels that he's a rising star, a real name to watch. But he's only 27, and at the moment he's lying in the top 10 and keeping big names like Roger Clark behind him, driving very well, very confidently, but he has a lot of experience for his age. Keeps this top 10 place, it will mean that there are no fewer than 3 Audis in the top 10. And this is a man who's at home in these forests as he is in his local bar, Roger Clark, 45 years old, returning for this event in the Porsche, thoroughly enjoying it, and according to our reckoning, well in the top 10. What a performance for the man who is the only non-Scandinavian to have won this event twice. A big grin all the time. I was talking to Jim Porter, who of course is running this rally, who is his old co-driver. He said, the old boy will be there at the end and I'll have a pint ready for him. And Roger looks as if he's well on his way to that pint and the celebration which he deserves. The old Roger Clark style. Now this is Mark Lovell in the Citroën Visa. There's so many different makes of cars, but this is really one of the smallest and one of the most conventional, but Lovell has gone exceptionally well. Mark Lovell from Axbridge in Somerset, one of the young drivers in this event, only 24 years old, and putting up a very credible performance indeed. We've seen a young British driver, now here is a young Swedish driver. This is Lars-Erik Torff. He's only 23. He's the youngest member of the Swedish junior rally team. You may have seen on BBC television last night the Swedes train their young tennis players. Well, they train their young rally drivers too. But it's encouraging to note that Britain has rising stars too. This is Di Llewellyn, perhaps our most promising newcomer. He's only 24 years old, he's a farmer from Haverfordwest, but this is his first ever RAC rally. Previously, he's just done smaller events that last sort of a night and a half a day or a day and a half a night. But here he is at the end of what is acknowledged as the most grueling rally of them all, and he's lying 14th in his work-supportedness. A superb effort and hope for the future. Perhaps another Roger Clark? Clinton Smith and another of the Opel Mantas. A lot of people have written off the Opel Mantas as outdated cars, but certainly in this rally, which has been extremely tough and needed reliability as well as high horsepower, they've done very well indeed. And Clinton Smith is a man that perhaps didn't set off expecting to be on the leaderboard, but has surprised many of the stars with a very steady, a very sensible, and certainly an effective drive. Chris Law, a 40-year-old director from Leeds in an Audi Quattro. He's had his share of problems, Chris Law, but he's still going and going well. An Audi Quattro like this one has, of course, won this event for the past 3 years. The Audi has been the pioneer of rallying. The Quattro Sport seems to want to take them into a quantum leap into the future. But there are new challenges for the Audis. The Mitsubishi, the Ford, the Porsche, the new Lancia. We're now not talking about cars that we see in the showrooms. We're talking about Grand Prix type cars built for the forest, built for the tarmac, built for the deserts.
Well, ever since the Lombard RAC went into the forest, it's been dominated by the Scandinavians, and here we go again. First, second and third, it's obviously something in the water, but what a stunning finish, just 40-odd seconds between first and second runners after 5 days and 2 nights of dicing amongst the trees. Sterling drive by Per Eklund to pull the powerful Toyota into third place. Michel Mouton got the finish so much wanted, being a little more jingoistic about it. 3 Brits on the leaderboard, Russell Brooks, Jimmy McRae and Bertie Fisher. A sterling testament, by the way, to the reliability of that Opel Manta 400. Roger Clark was just off the board, number 11, but 56 minutes between first and 10th really underlines what we've known ever since the Audi Quattro first appeared upon the scene. To win world-class rallies these days, you've got to have four-wheel drive. Sheer power isn't enough. As for the Peugeot 205, well, apart from that slight hiccup this morning with the four-wheel drive system, really ran like a Swiss watch, which speaks of very smooth driving, and I think defines the shape of things to come in 1985. Now let's go over to Sue Baker, who's in the final car park, speaking to some of those triumphant drivers who've just covered 2,000 miles.
Yes, here he is. It's Harry Vatanen with Terry Herriman. The trumpeters, the lifeguards await. The checkered flag is being held there by Mr. Porsche of Lombard North Central. Under the arch, the victory arch, the winners of the 1984 Lombard RAC Rally. Congratulations, it's Ari Vatanen and Terry Harriman who've won this year by 41 seconds after 3 very, very hairy stages into the Kynog, which kept us all guessing right the way through to the end. A magnificent win, 3 times in a row for Peugeot, for Ari Vatanen and for Terry Harriman.
Ari, can you tell us about the dramas in the closing stages where the car rolled, you also had trouble with the drive shaft? What happened?
Well, I mean, I did the thing I shouldn't have done. That was the one I was consciously trying to avoid. I mean, going off the road with that sort of lead when you are about to win the rally. But anyway, I don't know whether I was, one would say lack of concentration, or I felt I was being foolish. I just went off the road and we lost 5 minutes. But luckily we managed to push it back on its wheels and we managed to regain the lead. And then we had the problems with the transmission. And again, we were behind Hannu, and then I thought, well, what's going to happen? But finally, we pulled it off, and obviously, I'm very, very pleased, because it would have been very disheartening to lose it at these final stages.
Are you confident this car is going to maintain its edge? It's shown a very dominant lead in this rally all the way through.
No, I must say it's an incredible little toy I have got, this Peugeot 205. It really has turned the rallying world upside down in a way. You know, sometimes literally.
A rather dramatic finish, I gather. You had trouble with the engine on the closing stages.
Yeah, we had some problems with the turbo, but so we were a little bit down with power.
We heard you had a fire in the engine compartment at one point.
Yes, we had an oil leak under the bonnet, and but we got it out very quickly.
For the past 3 years, the Quattro has been the dominant car in rallying, and now it looks as though the Peugeot is taking over that role. Where are you going to be next year?
I will be driving Audis next year, but you know, the world is changing all the time.
You know, unfortunately, I would like to have one more etap tomorrow, but it's finished, you know, and we missed for 21 seconds.
Yes.
But I enjoyed this. It was difficult, but, you know, I am happy to finish this rally.
Yes, we just went a bit too quickly into a corner and got into the very soft ground on the outside. The wheels dug in and it flipped over onto the roof and came to rest on the roof. In fact, it was pushed down much further than this. And if it hadn't been for the spectators, it would have been very difficult to get out. They grabbed hold of Mike by his ears and everything and dragged him through the window.
It was not pleasant.
Were you just trying to frighten him? Is that what it was?
Well, it was on his side, as you can see.
The drivers always do that, you know. If it's going to hurt them their side, they handbrake it and make sure it goes on the co-driver's side.
An excellent result in 8th place, but not the sort of rallying you're used to as 5 times winner of the Safari. How does it compare?
Like chalk and cheese, basically. Here you don't practice. It is very fast. I mean, not as fast as Safari, but much faster in the sense that if you go off, you've only got the trees to stop you, and some of them are very, very big. But it's a totally different form of sport.
Very unusual to have your wife, Yvonne, co-driving for you. Do you ever fall out on a rally?
It's not unusual for us. We normally do all our rallying together. It's accepted that in the car there are situations where one of us is going to get very, very angry and lose their tempers, and then the other one stays quiet, and then it's forgotten, and then we get back to a normal married life, and I'm the henpecked husband.
All over bar the writing, 2 cameos to remember. Roy Bradford entered his £40 second-hand Honda Civic, survived the first day. Second day, crashed into a tree larger than the car, clambered up somewhat stunned and said, "I'll be back next year." And the other, Hannu Mikkola, chatting to Ari Vatanen this morning after the night's events, saying you could let me stay in front for a few more stages. One final point for all those people so kind enough to jam the BBC switchboard. I now know definitively Kielder is not in Yorkshire, it's in Northumberland. That's all from Chester. See you next week in Paris. Good night.
And Top Gear reports from Paris next Tuesday at 8:30.